The NHL is coming to Utah, and believe it or not, that can mean big things for Utah athletics too. Let's discuss on today's Locked On Utes.
You are Locked On Utes, your daily podcast on the Utah Utes, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hello, everyone, and thank you for making Locked On Utes your first listen every single day. We are available on all platforms, including YouTube and wherever you may get your podcast. If this is your first time listening to our show, make sure you like and subscribe. Love interacting with all of you in the YouTube comments as well as on social media, where you can follow our show at Locked On Utes today. Today's episode of Locked On Utes is brought to you by FanDuel. You can make every moment more. Right now, new customers get $150 in bonus bets with any winning $5 bet. That's $150 with any winning $5 bet. Visit FanDuel.com/locked-on to get started today. My name is JT Wistrcill, former intern inside the University of Utah Athletic Department. Excited to be joined by Mike Lageschulte, who is the voice of Utah Gymnastics, as well as the director of annual giving for University of Utah Athletics. Lags, always great having you on to stop by with us. And I'm excited for this conversation to take it a little step further of our normal just coverage on the field and on the court. And we'll dive into some stuff of that at the end, especially want to talk with you about your experience with the gymnastics team at Nationals. But really want to take today's episode as an opportunity to talk about the big news that the NHL is coming to Utah. Ryan Smith was able to bring over the Arizona Coyotes, who are formerly team there. Now they're coming up, and it's created a lot of buzz and excitement. And I do think this can be a big thing for the University of Utah too, because what the NHL coming to Utah is just part of the continual sports growth of not just the state of Utah, but especially Salt Lake City too. We've already heard of the plans that Ryan Smith has of kind of developing a downtown district as well, with more restaurants and things of that nature too. You know, with the NHL team coming into this, just adding to the interest in Utah sports. It's also going to mean, look, an NHL team now, like the state of Utah is becoming a more premier destination for sports in general. You'll have more people potentially moving out here. More people are going to make weekend trips maybe to go to Utah football in a game. And I just think the continued growth of the sports culture, whether that means more kids also just playing sports as the hockey culture is going to be growing, I think there are so many benefits that the university has from NHL coming to Utah. Lags.
I totally agree, JT. I think anything that helps Salt Lake helps the University of Utah, and then athletics is part of that because, like you said, there's more eyeballs going to be on downtown Salt Lake, and just this awareness that's created by having all those games, whether it's at home or away on television, and it brings in a different demographic to maybe engage them in our sports marketplace. I've been talking to some folks about, how's this impact fundraising? How's this help corporate sales? And I'm like, you know what? Yeah, there's more competition now in the marketplace, but I also think it gets more people involved. And I think once people get involved, and they maybe say, well, I'm going to do a little bit of this too. So I don't look at it as competition or anything of that nature, anything that's a negative. I think it's all positive. I think anything, and like you said too, that helps develop downtown Salt Lake City and the West Side, has had some challenges. They had Gateway going, and it didn't go very well, although the new City Creek Center kind of replaced some of that and has been excellent. But that West Side area there around the Delta Center, and there's some room to grow there. In fact, I drive by myself all the time as I come into work every day and go home. That's new development for homes and retail and businesses and restaurants and bars and so forth. And to have more of that down by the Delta Center, it's going to be terrific. And it's right by light rail. And I just think, again, anything that helps Salt Lake City and gets more eyeballs on us, draws more fans, just general sports fans to be a part of what's going on here, is a positive for the University of Utah Athletics as well.
Yeah, I just can't wait to see, when all of these programs, the Jazz, the NHL, and even, hey, I'll even give BYU some love, right? Like, you'll have two teams that are ascending in the Big 12, I feel like, because I do feel like BYU will eventually get back to trending upward right now. Basketball, they did make a good hire. I'll be talking about that soon with Jake Hatch. And you're then looking at the football program too. You feel like it takes time to get up to speed in the Big 12, but I expect them to be there too. So you got some major college teams, you got some successful pro teams too. And Legs, I'm even just excited for things like, let's say the NHL had been in Utah in 2022, right? When Cam Rising and the Utes win the Pac-12 championship, you can already just hear like them getting brought out, right? The entire crowd going absolutely crazy. And same thing like at Utah games. These NHL athletes will be like, look who's in attendance today. These new players on the new Utah NHL team. There's lots of rumors for what the name out there is going to be. I personally would like for it to be the Yetis. I'll say that. That's one that just rolls off the tongue for me. I'd like to hear from yours in a moment too. But, and I even mentioned it too, like, I just think as you look and continue towards the growth of the city with the new, apartments that could be built, like there's just more housing opportunities even. Like, I just think this is going to only continue to, in part, the population will continue to grow in some ways too. Not anything drastically, but people will be moving out to Utah. Obviously, an NHL team creates more jobs, so that's going to play a part into it too. We already talked about how the youth hockey scene, just more athletes in the state, right? Some kids are going to grow up playing more hockey because they're going to these NHL camps and things of that nature. And you know what hockey can also lead to, because it's a physical sport, more kids also giving football a try too. Growth and benefits of adding more people coming in, and just the added growth of more youth sports athletes too, as well as these pro and college teams supporting each other, which I think would be fantastic.
I'm not sure if Sully can grow any quicker than it is. I mean, the rate here is off the charts. I'm not sure if you can pour any more gas on that fire the way it's going right now. It's crazy, and it's wonderful. I mean, as someone who's lived here almost 30 years, and to me, that's kind of where I go back to. Is I remember moving out here, and the Jazz were awesome in the 90s, and Utah was a growing program in the WAC, and then the Mountain West, and BYU made that jump as well from WAC to Mountain West and independent and football. And it just feels like there's been just this steady stream of growth. And then the Olympics came in 2002. And I think getting the Olympics back, as it looks like we'll get it here in the early 2030s, whether it's 34, whatever it is, that's going to help. And then just getting another pro franchise in town, I think will help. All this stuff just drives the interest, drives the enthusiasm of the sports fans. And I tell you what, I haven't been to a lot of hockey games, but I've been to a couple in Vegas on some trips down there and thought it was awesome. I was just so to watch that sport in person. I'm like, wow, this is just a great entertainment night out. And I'm looking forward to going to some games. I know some other folks feel the same way. It hasn't been known as, a hockey town for any real reason, but now that there's another pro team coming, people watch hockey. I think, it's been a big Olympic sports town in general, which kind of feeds into hockey. I think they're going to have a fan base that from day one will be pretty robust and pretty enthused about a pro hockey team being here.
Really quick, which name did you like for the NHL team?
I like the Yeti, but I almost feel like, that's been kind of the popular pick. I like the Golden Eagles, kind of going back to the former pro team in town. The Utah Blizzard's been one I like. Utah Seas, I like that a lot. Yeti, I'm concerned about some copyrights there, JT. Can you get that one wrestled away from some folks, or maybe there's a price tag? I don't know. So I think if you had to ask me right now, where do I think it's going to go? I'd say Yeti, but I kind of like to think about other things. And so Golden Eagles, Blizzard, and the Freeze are a couple of the ones I really like as well.
Yeah, lots of options. Would love to hear from you guys as well in the comments. Let me know below which one you guys are leaning towards that you would like to see out there. And Lags, last thing I do want to mention on this topic too, before we jump into the potential possibility of Rice Eccles Stadium hosting hockey games, which I think will be electric. You mentioned just, the competition standpoint from a sales and some of that thing too, or maybe even, just like having overlapping of games and things like that too. But as you kind of said, I just think these sports are going to elevate each other, right? Especially like for football. There's only so many football games in the season. There's obviously a lot of NHL games. And this even goes to like, if people are planning out their weekend trips to come back to Utah or just go out to a weekend in Utah, maybe outside of ski season even, it's like, well, we could hit an NHL game on this night, and then we could go to a Utah Athletics game that night. So you can put them together and pair them with things too, as well as just all the people who are fired up about the opportunity to support another team. We saw how outstanding the support was in the introductory press conference. All the people showed up there at the Delta Center to welcome this team with open arms. And just because you love one team doesn't mean you can't make room for another. I mean, we've already have tons of NHL fans in Utah. Now they just get to have their own team in the state, which I think is incredible. And that doesn't mean you stop being Utah football fans either, of course, too. So just that added benefit of another sport, another team to love, and that are going to support each other. Because I do think Utah Athletics will be supporting the NHL team. You just see in every city, you see the pro sports and college sports teams a lot of times when they're on top of each other, supporting each other. And that's something I'm really excited to see in Salt Lake. And one thing I'm really excited to see, because I just think I would be shocked if this wouldn't happen. if we don't get a hockey an NHL game at some point in Rice Eccles Stadium. That would surprise me. We're going to talk about the potential of that and how cool that will be once we get to that point in one moment. But first, want to talk to you all about one of the sponsors of today's episode of Locked On Utes, our friends at Monopoly Go. Lags, as you remember the last time you were on, I do have a little bit of a competitive side with Monopoly Go.
Yeah.
And that's why I just want to take a second to pause and talk to you guys about Monopoly Go. I know what you're saying. I already talked about it way too much, but there's just too much good stuff in this game to not talk about. In Monopoly Go, you can team up with friends for time tournaments where you work together to build each other's boards. The more you win together, the more awesome prizes you unlock. And there's so much to get with unique stickers. You can trade with friends to complete albums for big prizes. There are cool new playing pieces to travel the boards with, hilarious emojis for taunting friends when you smash their buildings or heist their vaults. Plus, Monopoly Go feels new and exciting every day with constantly changing tournaments and challenges, a ton including their own unique mini games like digging for treasure or a robot machine. And there's always new timed events that help you win big, like massive multiplayers for everything you want to win or even rent frenzies. There's always something fun to discover in Monopoly Go. So get off the bench and go download it now, free on Google Play or the App Store. Game on. All right, Lags, talking about the NHL in Utah. One thing that's really fun every year is you see it across the country, is you see these teams play in outdoor venues, whether it's MLB stadiums. I've seen host NHL games. I think there's been some in NFL. I could be off on that, but I thought I've seen that at some point before. You guys can correct me in the comments if that is not the case. But Utah is a pretty awesome venue. The University of Utah does in Rice Eccles Stadium. It's something that's hosted concerts. It's hosted dang monster truck events too. And I do believe eventually we're going to see it host NHL events. And I'm not pouring gasoline on the fire. This has actually been something that I think a fan put out there. And then Mark Harlan retweeted it. And then even Ryan Smith said it was something that could be a possibility, Lags. And I know you're in the department, so you're asking you like, is this absolutely going to happen? But I just do think naturally it makes a lot of sense for this to happen. It's just right up the road from where the team is going to play anyways. And I think it would be awesome to bring so many fans together for an NHL outdoor game in Rice Eccles Stadium.
It would be awesome. I want to say Lambeau Field hosted a Detroit Red Wings game, or maybe something along those. Maybe not, but I do want to say that they've had some NHL games at NFL stadiums. But you're right. If you're looking to do something different in Salt Lake, that's where you go. And you know they tend to rotate those things around. And I think sometimes in new markets they want to give them a little bit of a jolt. You know, if you build a new stadium, you tend to host an all-star game. I think if there's a new team in town for NHL. Why not Rice Eccles? And I mean, just imagine, JT, the scenery on a beautiful winter day up by campus with the mountains and the snow in that setting would be terrific. So I think as Mark Harlan said, nothing's official, and obviously it's way early in the game, but no one's saying no to it either. I think that the possibility is really intriguing and really exciting to a lot of people. And, you know, again, it's like the Olympics. It's like other things that come into our venue at Rice Eccles. We had the NBA All-Star Game activities at the Huntsman Center a few years ago. All that stuff just brings attention to Utah athletics and our campus and are just tremendous opportunities. And you know, of all the things that were kind of talked about when the team was announced that they were coming in terms of the name and where they're going to play and the downtown plans, this idea of having an NHL game at Rice Eccles Stadium in that winter series would be just awesome. Just awesome.
Yeah, it would be awesome. And you know what else is something I think that has the potential to be really cool too is Utah does have their hockey team. It's a club hockey team, but I think that's another team too. And, you know, college sports is always changing. There's so many things, whether it is a Title IX. So there's lots of things that go into like, you know, adding a team, making it official too, but also just say this for just like the continued growth and everything we've talked about. I do think the addition of an NHL team, now this one might take a little bit more time to see take off too, but I even think something like the University of Utah club hockey team, which I remember one of the very first comments when I took over this show was about the club hockey team and wanting some coverage for them too. I just think adding a team of the NHL caliber, once again, the youth interest will spike in the NHL. I think you could eventually see the Utah club hockey team continue to evolve too, and that become a bigger deal that gets better support too. Everything can benefit from adding more excitement to the sports landscape with a pro sports team like the NHL Coming to Utah.
Totally agree. You know, club hockey isn't under D1 athletics, but I've been to a couple of their games almost more out of curiosity. I was impressed with the crowds. They've been very successful. It's so hard, you mentioned, to move a program from club level to Division I with all the expenses that come involved. But we did it with lacrosse in the last decade or so, because we had someone and a group of people who really were passionate about it and funded it. Same Arizona State. So it can happen. It's difficult, but I think even if it just stays at the club level, just having an NHL team in town is going to just drive more kids playing hockey. It might bring some players to come in just because it becomes a hockey town and they want to be a part of it. And they've got a great venue over at the Steiner Aquatic Center, the ice sheet there. And so certainly this will do nothing but help the club hockey team at the University of Utah. And if there's a chance to go D1, it would certainly help that as well.
There's just so much excitement as we're talking about with an NHL team coming to Utah. And you know what else is really exciting, Lags? The Utah baseball team this year.
Yes.
First in the Pac-12 standings. I still remember calling games with you when this team was not first in the Pac-12 standings. There were some struggles and things going on of that nature, and slowly but surely, and it's cool to see guys like a Kai Roberts and a TJ Clarkson still a part of the turnaround from when this team did have some of its struggles earlier on, to see the ascension and the growth of the baseball program. It's just been so fun to watch what this team has been able to do under Coach Henderson. What are you most impressed about with this baseball team?
It reminds me a lot of the 2016 team that won the Pac-12 kind of out of nowhere. And the similarities are really with this. You got a group of guys who have been building this thing and they've been committed, and they've been so close, Utah has been, to making just a Pac-12 tournament the last couple of years, but just didn't quite have enough in terms of personnel and depth to carry it through. Although they've had some very good moments under Gary Henderson. But I think when Gary came in under Bill Kinderberg, he was known nationwide as an excellent recruiter. Had been a head coach at Kentucky and Mississippi State, great pedigree, got some guys come in right away, but now you're seeing not just a few quality guys, the depth of the roster has really filled out. And I just think it's one of those deals, like, again, that 16 team where you have a bunch of guys that have been together, that played together, that took their lumps together. Now they're finding ways to win the games and passions they maybe just couldn't quite get over the top and win. And they've done that this year. They've been pressed and they've won all but one series. That was against Oregon State when they had, competitive kind of middle game of the series that went Oregon State's way. Otherwise, they could have won easily 2 out of 3 that weekend. And here they are, JT. We're coming down to the final month and they're in first place, tied with Arizona. They go to Oregon this weekend. The Ducks are ranked 21st. Then they come back home to face, Arizona. And so if the Utes can even just get one this weekend, love to get 2 and win another series. But if you can just get 1 and come home with the Arizona Wildcats coming in for your final home series, weather's getting better. I know some fans maybe didn't know a lot about this team with the weather and the buildup. But listen, fans, get out there next weekend. They played 11 on Friday and Saturday, 7 p.m. on Sunday because the Bees are in town. So the schedule, a little bit flipped around from an ideal game time situation. But weather should be great. And, come out and enjoy this team. It's going to be a lot of fun. And there's some guys like Kai Roberts and TJ Clarkson in particular who have been great leaders. They've had some really nice pitching with Brandon Hostert, Bryson Van Sickle, Micah Ashman, one of the best closers in the country in recent years, just to mention some guys who, who've been around and really made an impact. But I think, again, they're very similar to that 16 team where there's just something there. You just kind of feel like this is their year to win the conference perhaps and hang in there, definitely make NCAAs. They're ranked for the first time ever in school history in the top 25. So come out and watch this baseball team next weekend and certainly watch this weekend as well on the Pac-12 networks when they take on Oregon.
Lags, you just mentioned some of those names in the bullpen for Utah, and I remember calling those guys as games. And you're looking at, okay, like, how do you say Ashman and all of these like things and it's just amazing not to see the development and growth, but this is one of the things that has been a little lost in college athletics because of the transfer portal. It's so fun and just enjoyable to watch a guy come in as a recruit and slowly but surely work his way through the ranks of your program and have success. As we said, transfer portal, that isn't always a thing as much anymore, but man, it's one of the things that is the most rewarding aspects of college athletics. And when you are supporting a team too, right? We're going to see that with some Utah football guys this year. Some guys like, Smith Snowden was only here basically a year and now he's as a reserve and now he's going to be a starter right away. But I just think that's one of the awesome things that exists in college athletics still. And that has been lost a little bit because of the transfer portal, but you still get to see it. And it does show you can still build the team the traditional way and have success, what Utah baseball has been able to do. So it's been really fun and exciting to watch all of the success that they've had play out. And Lags, you had a great front row seat as you were calling all the action for a very successful Utah Gymnastics season. We want to get your thoughts on the national championship because what a wild day in Fort Worth that ended up turning into. We're going to be diving into the national championship meet in one moment. But before we dive into gymnastics, I want to take an opportunity to talk to you guys about one of the sponsors of today's episode of Locked On Utes, our friends at Gametime. Gametime is an authorized ticket marketplace of the NBA, which makes getting playoff tickets even faster and easier. Prices on the Gametime app actually go down the closer it gets to tip off. They have great last-minute deals, all in price views from your seat, and their low price guarantee. Gametime truly takes the guesswork out of buying NBA tickets. You can pick out any specific game or matchup you'd want to attend and find a great deal for you on the Gametime app today. They have deals such as zone deals where you save even more when you choose a section and let Gametime choose the seats. You can also save even more with flash deals, exclusive in-app deals on selected seats ahead of the game or event. You can also save up to 60% off buying last minute for sports, comedy, theater, and events. Tickets for games actually go down the closer it gets to tip or kickoff or whatever event you want. They also have a low price guarantee in which Gametime will credit you 110% of the difference. You can even get a panoramic view from your seat in the app before you buy. There are so many outstanding features for you guys to enjoy on Gametime, including a ticket coverage plan where your purchase is covered with the most flexible customer service policy in the ticketing industry. So download the Gametime app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDONCollege. That's LOCKEDON and then college, COLLEG, college in all caps, the L unlocked, the O and on, all one word, LO capitalized, and all of college capitalized for $20 off. Download Gametime today. Last minute tickets, lowest price, guaranteed, and terms do apply. All right, Lags, closing this one out. You had a front row seat for all of the action we witnessed down in Fort Worth. What a wild weekend it was. Utah advancing, Oklahoma not advancing. Utah almost becoming national champions, but just couldn't quite pull it out in the end. What was your experience like up close and personal with the team in Fort Worth?
Well, first off, just a great season for Utah. I know they were disappointed, coaches, student athletes, and even the fans who made the trip that Utah didn't win, because it was one of those years where you felt like, once you made that Final Four and Oklahoma was eliminated, you thought, okay, this might be the chance to go get a championship. It didn't work out, but still to be a number 5 seed, just to make the Final Four, huge accomplishment to have a chance to make a run at one and to be in the lead after 3 events. Terrific. And then to win the Pac-12 conference in the final season, they did not win the regular season. Cal beat them in Berkeley. That gave the Bears the edge for that, but to come back and beat them plus UCLA in the final Pac-12 championship was great. My impression of gymnastics, JT, is it's very hard in that sport to be something in postseason you haven't been during the year. And for Oklahoma, yes, they were ranked number 1, score well, but they really haven't been tested night in, night out the way some other teams have been, like LSU, like Utah, for instance. And they got the Nationals at semifinal Thursday night. And once it didn't go well, they really kind of crumbled. And shockingly so. They had 5 missed routines that night. That's a lot, especially for a team that's a 2-time defending national champion and the number 1 ranked team. So, but again, they hadn't been in that environment where they were really being tested like they were that night the entire year. I think it cost them. I think for Florida, a team that didn't score well early, had been scoring pretty well later in the year, but they hadn't been real consistent, and they seemed like they just didn't quite have everything they needed to win one. Utah had some good moments, but everyone I talked to is like, they didn't have a meet where you felt like they were 4 for 4 every event and 24 for 24 on all routines, but they thought maybe they could do it that last night. They win the whole thing. But again, if you hadn't done a regular season, very hard to go to nationals on the final night and say, here's our time to do it. So I think, for Utah moving forward, if they want to make a run at one, I think they will at some point here soon. They need to have a team that's a little more consistent in regular season, where you go to nationals and it's like, okay, we've done this before. We know we've done this before. We just got to do it again, as opposed to let's do it for the first time. And then you look at the team that won the whole thing, LSU. They were the one team the whole year that was tested, that has scored consistently well, that over the course of the year, they were more like the team in nationals they had been the whole year than any other team, if that makes sense. They were tested, they had scored well, and in the end they won. I think that's really the formula. Is you got to be consistent throughout the year. You go to that big stage, it's nothing new. They were just so clutch on beam. They had a fall, they had the workaround, but the other 5 were just lights out, and they never really gave the judges throughout that final night of performances any room to take some deductions. Utah did, even on bars and beam. They were good there, but not as good as I thought they needed to be to win a championship. Certainly had the issues on ball at the end. And, Florida gave the judges some room. Cal had a very nice night, but gave the judges some room. LSU was the one team for 2 nights in nationals that did not, and they were your national champion.
Yep. Hats off to them. They did an incredible job, but it was an incredible season for Utah too. And Lags, even though the year is winding down, there are still so many great things going on with Utah athletics. We highlighted the baseball team, softball team going strong in another season too. But tell everyone about some of the exciting things you got going on as well with the Crimson Club.
Well, it's the time of the year, JT. We really try to say thank you to our members and the lacrosse team. I want to give mention to them as well. They won the A-Sun regular season championship. They're off the tournament this week. The golf team has made regionals for the third time in 4 years. They just found that out this week, and then they're off to NCAAs again. So Garrett Clay, great job to him. And Andrew Min, the head coach of lacrosse, doing a great job. So salute to those programs. Track and field still going as well. But in terms of fans coming out, we've got a softball appreciation event for Crimson Club and Varsity Club members. That's our former student athlete group. We've got that coming up on Saturday at noon at Dumpke Family Softball Stadium. And if you're not a member of either one, come on out anyway. It's the final weekend of the season. We'll honor our seniors and watch them play their final home series, and then the baseball series next weekend against Arizona. Friday, Saturday, Sunday, we'll have another Crimson Club Varsity Club appreciation event on that Saturday at 11 a.m. We're going to have some hot dogs and some chips and drinks and get together on the party deck on the third base side, seats in the lawn, and cheer on our Utes. So hopefully their last home series win of the year. So fans come out and free tickets if you're members of both the Crimson Club and Varsity Club to the softball event this weekend on Saturday, next Saturday for baseball. And come out and join us and watch some good balls. The weather's warming up and a chance to salute both of our softball and baseball teams.
Lots of great things going on. And Lags, we know you're busy, so appreciate you taking the time to join us today. Thank you.
Enjoy as always, JT. Thanks.
That's going to do it for today's edition of Locked On Utes. We'll be back with you soon, talking more things Utah athletics.